Happening tonight, the Las Vegas Raiders have traded for Seattle's quarterback, Geno Smith. In return, they give up a third-round pick. We don't know the year yet, but for the only thing, it's only a third-round pick per rap sheet, as well as a report on top of that, too, with Geno Smith being traded, the contract extension, with him only having 1 year left on his deal, he is projected to get paid between $45 and $50 million for his next contract. The other part of aspect as well is why the trade happened, which may surprise a lot of people, is that supposedly that there was a dispute with the contract, long-term talks for Seattle, and that he requested a trade from the team once it was certain that they could not find common ground for a long-term extension per Schultz reports. So I want to give my thoughts on the whole deal in general. So first we have to look at, before I get into my opinion, why they did this. And we want to see the positives. The biggest one that jumps out to me, no doubt, is just the relationship between him and Pete Carroll from Seattle. They seem like they really got along, especially after the whole, if you want to say, the turmoil between him and Russell Wilson, how that played out, the trade, and then Geno Smith comes in out of nowhere and plays well. You look at that famous game, the first game when Russell Wilson got traded to Denver. He told me that everyone wrote me off, and overachieved that year. And we kind of go to the stats real quick. His first year being the actual starter, over 4,200 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 100.9 QBR, passer rating, and a 69.8 completion percentage. He followed up with a 64.7 completion percentage, 3,600 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 92.1 passer rating. And this past season, his career best, 70.4 completion percentage, 4,300 yards, 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, a 93.2 passer rating. So overall, his tenure with Seattle was good, especially for 2022 and 23 when he was the actual starter for Pete Carroll. Of course, he was there 2 years prior in 2020. Didn't really do too much more, of course, because of Russell Wilson being the starter. So Pete Carroll has had a long relationship with Geno Smith for 4 years being on the team, whether being the backup or the starter. They had a good relationship. So right then and there, it already brings in a familiar face that Pete Carroll knows. He knows how he operates, he knows how he works, and that's already a plus right there. Coach and quarterback are on the same page. The other aspect of it, too, is Geno Smith is a much bigger upgrade than Gardner Minshew and O'Connell. We can already, no question about that. They already told Gardner Minshew that they will not be bringing him back. So right then there, that is an upgrade. How much of an upgrade that is, I don't know, but certainly better than those two guys. As well as, at least for this year, and what they gave up in return to get him, is not horrible. He's not a horrible quarterback. I'm not saying he's anything great, anything special, but he is a serviceable quarterback, and that has played well at times, and has put up good stats. You look at this year, he did lead the league in attempts with 4th. He was 13th in passing touchdowns, 4th in passing yards, and then 15th, higher up there for the interceptions, which you might get a little bit worried about this past season because it went up as opposed to 9 last year. And then for the money, he's getting paid $31 million. When you look at the going rate for a lot of quarterbacks and some of the bad contracts that are going out, that is not horrible for right now. So I don't mind what they gave up to get Geno Smith and what he's getting paid for this year, because it's good actually. It's not bad. It is for a third-round pick for what he can do. I think it's a good trade for the Raiders. So you kind of have those three, the asset they gave up for him, the contract for right now, and the Pete Carroll's relationship. Also comparing the quarterbacks to they had before. So those are the positives. I do worry though for the two things: the next contract as well as how he's going to be. So let's look at and these both go hand in hand, of course. You look at Seattle. He did put up great numbers. If you look at what people thought about him before he became the starter, written him off as a bust, horrible quarterback, was a backup for quite some time before getting his opportunity again. He played well because he had a good team around him. You look at offensively, he had a good offensive line, nothing spectacular, but a good offensive line. He had Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet as a running back duo. He had DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba as the 3 wide receivers. And if you want to throw in, not that it means anything, but Noah Fant at tight end, that is a good cast, and that's why you put up good numbers in Seattle. He is going to a spot in the Raiders where You don't have running backs. You don't really have receivers. You have Brock Bowers, absolutely phenomenal. So he has him, no doubt about that. Historic rookie season, and will be a great tight end for years to come. So I want to mention. I don't want to throw them out there like, oh, they have absolutely nobody. They have one player, and that's pretty much it. You have Mike Myers, but they are trying to actively get rid of him as well. I don't know if they keep him, does he have a bigger role because they just have no one else and they run a two tight end set? I don't know, but you have Brock Bowers. That's pretty much it. That's not enough for Geno Smith to succeed. You look at the division that he's going to, it is a much tougher division going from the NFC West to the AFC West when you were facing the 3-time Super Bowl appearances for the Kansas City Chiefs, a dynasty, almost on the verge of a three-peat with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. You have Harbaugh, who overachieved this year, his first season with the Chargers, and is going to build on top of that and be better next year. Had a good defense, and Justin Herbert overall played well, especially for his touchdown interception ratio was great. I know the playoffs was absolutely horrible all around for them, but still overachieved in their first year for Harbaugh being the head coach, and it will get much better, as well as the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton and rookie Bo Nix, who played well down the stretch, and again got embarrassed in the wild card, but you see the makings of a contending team, not Super Bowl caliber, but at least playoff caliber team that's gonna be competing. And so right then there's a 3-headed race for the division. Right there, Geno Smith is already, in my eyes, maybe you can argue the third best quarterback, but the fourth best quarterback in the division, with having the fourth best coach in the division as well. Again, you can argue he's better than Bo Nix at this point. I think it kind of goes both ways because they both offer different skill sets. So at best, the third best quarterback, only because Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback going into his second season. Outside of that, you can argue maybe the fourth best quarterback. So you go from there to a tougher division with far less talent than Seattle to the Raiders. I just worry, on top of the big contract he could potentially be getting, at most $50 million, which is outrageous. So you add that all together, the expectations, that to me would be too high. And I worry that he's going to be a Sam Darnold, where you saw right at the end of the season, Week 18, when the number one seed, the NFC, was on the line, as well as the wild card on neutral grounds, that they got embarrassed. And that's not all on him. Certainly the offensive line played a part of it, and the team in general just didn't play well, but it did not help when you are looking for a big-time contract and you're looking at to potentially be maybe a franchise quarterback for another team this offseason, and you put that performance on. Overall, he had a great season. It's just the end of this year was, it left a bad taste of how he was, and I worried that's gonna be a similar suit to Geno Smith, as I worry about Sam Darnold if he takes the money and goes to a worse team when he's not surrounded by all that great talent with Justin Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, going down the list, Brian Flores' defense. He's going to kind of revert into, this is what the Sam Darnold that we know. I worry about that too with Geno Smith. This is the guy that we know, similar to Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Raiders. Played fantastic with San Francisco because the guy has an all-star cast around him. Goes to the Raiders, doesn't play too well. I worry about that too. Now, I would say at this point, certainly that maybe Geno Smith is better than Jimmy Garoppolo too, but again, you're going to a far worse situation in a much tougher division and certainly a much tougher conference. I mean, I don't remember the opponents they have this year. Certainly, they already posted that. They just haven't posted exactly the exact order week by week. But it's going to be a tough division in the AFC regardless. It's a much stacked team teams overall, as opposed to the NFC, where it's more top heavy. The talent's more spread out for teams, especially there's a lot more great quarterbacks or elite quarterbacks in the AFC as opposed to the NFC. That is why I worry about the Raiders. Is there, certainly this does not rule out drafting a quarterback this year. I don't know if that'd be Dart from Ole Miss, Jalen Milroe from Alabama, or who else you want to throw there, Dylan Gabriel, the list goes on and on for that. I mean, certainly they're not going to be in position, I don't think, to trade up and get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. So they might take someone day two, if available. If not, wait till 2026. Certainly, again, this does not exclude them getting a quarterback and developing him under Geno Smith. But for right now, it's, if you're rolling with right as of right now, as of today, moving forward, just Geno Smith is your guy. I do worry because you just don't have the pieces around him to be the guy in Seattle and be a fringe playoff caliber team. You might be a little bit better this year as upcoming season as opposed to this past season, but I don't think it's gonna be too much, especially again if you just don't have enough pieces outside of Brock Bowers to help Geno Smith out. It's, again, it is worrisome in that aspect of it. So from that point, it's a solid move. I'm just shocked. I just keep saying I'm shocked because I just not think Seattle was going to move off of Geno Smith. But when you hear the reports of, hey, they just couldn't come together for a long-term deal, makes sense. Even then, I'm still shocked that they would trade Geno Smith for, trade Geno Smith to the Raiders. And whatever happens for that, I don't know. Maybe it works because of the Pete Carroll Geno Smith relationship, and that was great there for the 4 years they were there together. The last two, especially being the starter. I just worry for Raiders fans. I hope there is. There probably is more to the plan than just this. I really hope so, but the Raiders don't really have a good track history of making the best decisions and so forth. I think that certainly will change now with Pete Carroll being the head coach and going to a different direction. So we'll see. I truly hope there is more to this plan than just Geno Smith, but for right now, it's not horrible, but could have done a little bit better. We'll see what Seattle does in their quarterback hunt now. There was a report that they're going after Sam Darnold, of course, just like plenty of other teams supposedly they're going after, but it's, for the Raiders, it's gonna be interesting to see with Geno Smith with that team and what they're gonna do this year. It's at best a tad bit better as of right now. We have to wait and see, and it's unfair for me to say this is a horrible plan because we have to wait until the whole offseason plays through what they do in free agency and the draft and so forth. But for now, it's okay. I'll give that. I wanted to give it a letter grade, but just my thoughts on initial reaction. It's okay. It's an okay trade. It's solid. Nothing crazy. Nothing great. Doesn't really push the needle forward. You definitely got an upgrade, like I've talked about, at the quarterback position that you had. Looking this past season between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, certainly far better than that. How much better in terms of that? Does it make it better regardless? I don't know. It gives you a respectable quarterback for now, serviceable for how many years are going to sign him. I mean, he wants a long-term deal, so if it's 3-4 years for a contract, even then, is he going to see the whole contract throughout or see through it? Don't know. But again, overall, not too bad for the Raiders in this situation. Didn't really give up too much to get a solid quarterback in return. And it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens throughout the rest of the 2025 offseason.